The Kyle Rittenhouse verdict has come in, and he was acquitted of all charges. People on the right are celebrating, are doing victory laps. People on the left are losing their minds. However, it appears, at least in Kenosha, things are peaceful. Welcome to Escaping the Echo Chamber. There's a couple of things I want to discuss in relation to the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. One, what are the responses? So we've got on the left, people are upset. People are very upset. People are talking about this is an indication that the justice system is just skewed, that it's only favors white men. And I'm going to address that. People on the right are celebrating, doing victory laps, like, hey, yeah, this is great. This is awesome. And I'm also going to address the fact that, hey, if you really believe in self-defense, then we've got to address how many times black people are using self-defense and are deprived of that defense. And then what kind of real world reactions are there? Kenosha seems to be good. But in Portland, they started, in fact, they declared a riot. They attacked the Justice Center. And it's like, what purpose does that serve? So for the people that are saying, yes, this is about Black lives, what does Antifa rioting in Portland do for Black people? Tell me, because I really would like to hear this. My answer is, my guess is you don't have a really good answer. Cool. Let's go to how the liberals are reacting. So people on the left are reacting that this is proof that the justice system is out of control, is racist. And I'm like, okay, there are three names that I want you to think of that might shed some light on the situation. One of those names is Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker was Breonna Taylor's boyfriend. He shot when cops entered the apartment with a no-knock warrant. He, not knowing that they were cops, shot at them. They shot back, killed Breonna Taylor, which in itself is a tragedy. But he was not charged. He could not be charged, and he could not be held criminally responsible because he was asserting self-defense using the Castle Doctrine. Now, for those on the left that are saying, oh, well, if he was Black, okay. So we have at least one instance where a Black person has successfully used a self-defense and against police. So if people on the left are making the claim that not only can a Black man not use self-defense successfully, if they are arguing that self-defense laws must be gotten rid of or must be made even narrower, that's not helping Black people. Stop it. Two, so we have Kenneth Walker. The second name I have for you is Andrew Coffey. Yesterday, Andrew Coffey IV was found not guilty of attempted murder and felony murder, attempted murder of police, and felony murder of his girlfriend who was shot by police when they entered his home. He got into a shootout with them, not knowing they were police. His girlfriend was shot and killed. And this is like, by the way, this is so eerily similar to Breonna Taylor. It's like, it's crazy. But they charged him with her death despite the fact that they shot her. Fortunately, he was acquitted of all of those charges. And that's a great thing. So once again, to the people on the left that are trying to claim, oh, we need to narrow the self-defense laws. Oh, Black men, we have another example where a Black man was successfully able to use the defense and avoid being charged and being convicted of felony murder and attempted murder on police. However, there is a difference in this case and Kyle Rittenhouse's case. That difference, he was convicted of illegal possession of a firearm. He was a felon. He had a firearm, and according to the law, he was not supposed to. That's something the left does not want to address. So the left will address it in the sense, see, well, they threw out the gun charge for Kyle. And I'm like, okay, so do you support getting rid of the gun charge for people like Andrew Coffey? Do you support getting rid of the prohibition for felons to own firearms to be able to defend themselves? Do you? Because if you sit here and claim that you care about Black people, then you realize how often the justice system and criminal law is used against Black men and is actually a way to disarm Black men. So if you support Black men, then you have to support our ability to defend ourselves, our ability to regain rights after criminal convictions and after a whole host of disabilities that have been placed upon us to stop us from being able to own firearms and being able to defend ourselves. If you actually care about Black people, then you have to support getting rid of those restrictions after somebody is, for example, convicted of a felony. This really messed up part about the Andrew Coffey, the fourth trial and his conviction. You may say, okay, so he was found a guilty felon in possession. He's facing 30 years. He's facing a maximum of 30 years, and the prosecutor is saying that he's going to push for 30-year sentence, for a 30-year sentence. And now, based upon how I've seen the criminal system, and I'm not even going to call it criminal justice system, I'm going to call it the criminal system. The criminal system operate. If you are acquitted of certain charges that they are trying to get you on, they will then use whatever charges that you were convicted of to punish you for the charges that you were not convicted of. So it is clear that they intend to punish him for the charges that he was acquitted of with the charge that he was found guilty for. If you care, if you want to do something to help Black people, this is an opportunity. This is where people can put their energy to make sure that this man is not given a 30-year sentence, to make sure that this man, in fact, really, if you actually, for people on the right, if you believe in the Second Amendment, you should be supporting the charge, him getting probation and no jail time or time served. That's what you should be supporting. You should be supporting him getting immediate release, because just being in possession of a firearm should not be a prison sentence. It should not. If the Second Amendment applies, the Second Amendment should apply. Just because somebody was convicted of a crime at some point in time should not mean that we lose our abilities to defend and protect ourselves and our families. It should not mean that. And if you believe in the Second Amendment, you will agree with that. Now, let's go to Michael Giles, the third name. Michael Giles is also somebody who asserted self-defense. Michael Giles did not kill the person who he was defending himself against. Michael Giles is now in prison. Michael Giles' self-defense failed. So yes, there are instances where Black men will attempt to use self-defense and not be successful. Kyle Rittenhouse, if you care about Black people, Kyle Rittenhouse means nothing. If you care about Black people, somebody like Michael Giles does mean something. How do you make a difference in Michael Giles' life? How do you get that case reviewed so that this man does not spend decades in prison for defending himself against somebody who attacked him? If you care about Black people, these are three names that you should be talking about. Kyle Rittenhouse has nothing to do with the equation, but what he's being used for is to advance their agenda, which has nothing to do with Black people. It's about gun control. It's about making the laws even more restrictive, because you have people on the left who are advocating to make the self-defense laws even narrower in scope, even narrower. So if you're saying that under current self-defense laws all over the country, Black men are being punished unfairly, your answer is to make these laws even narrower, that means you are an enemy to Black people. That's exactly what it means. And to the people on the left that are saying, oh yeah, Black people don't need to arm themselves, are you serious? So riddle me this. How do you justify not advocating for Black people to be armed, to defend themselves, to protect themselves, while you're claiming that there are racist vigilantes out there hunting for Black people? You are advocating for Black people to depend on the racist police to protect us from racist vigilantes, and in the event that we get harmed, we're supposed to depend on racist judges and racist prosecutors to hold those racist vigilantes accountable for their actions against us. Are you serious? Now, to the people on the right, if you say that you believe in self-defense, and if you feel, hey, Kyle Rittenhouse was well within his rights, and people should be allowed to defend themselves, keep that same energy when we're talking about Black people who are defending themselves. Because many Black people, many of these instances of crime that you hear inside the inner cities are of some individuals defending themselves against an aggressor. But a lot of y'all don't even look at the nuance. Y'all refuse to look at the nuance. Y'all just see gun violence and you use this phrase, Black on Black crime, ignoring the fact that in many instances, you have one person who is doing whatever they're doing, and somebody who is coming after them with a weapon. Often, in many cases, the individual is successfully manages to protect themselves, but is still held legally responsible. And if you believe in self-defense, then start believing in self-defense and start advocating for self-defense, even when it includes people who may have criminal records. Because a criminal record should not preclude you from being able to defend yourself. And before I close out the video, I want to talk about the shooting. The fact that, yes, there's a lot of people on the right pretending that there was clear cut, there's no issue. That's not true. That's not true at all. There was an issue of whether or not he had a legitimate reason to use lethal force, particularly in the Rosenbaum instance. Particularly in the Rosenbaum instance, because this individual was unarmed. He knew he was unarmed, and he shot and killed him anyway. That was a legitimate issue. But there are people on the right who are pretending that's not an issue. Hey, you know, the dude was the aggressor. The dude was coming towards him, and he shouldn't have been chasing. Okay, say what you will. But then you also take a look at the fact that the question, and I mentioned this in a earlier video, of whether or not they were going to credit Grosscourt's Gage's testimony about that he was pointing to the gun, or credit Kyle Rittenhouse's testimony that Gage was not pointing at the gun when he fired upon him. But the case is over, and I'm just seeing a whole bunch of different sides try to use this to fit their agenda. And it's like, hey, listen, people, consistency would be nice, but at this point, there's a culture war going on. I think that's too much to expect. I do see a lot of individuals like, hey, but this is, you know, the reason why black people should be concerned is because, you know, white supremacists are happy about this. And I'm like, okay, game of chess. My opponent starts getting all amped about, oh yeah, I'm about to take your pawn. That pawn is finished. Do I abandon all of my strategy to focus on that pawn? If I do, I'm an idiot. Because even if that person is focused on the pawn, I don't abandon my strategy of winning the game to focus on worrying about one pawn. If he's going to be that stupid and put himself out of position, I exploit his foolishness. If he's trying to gaslight me into paying attention to something that is not materially important, I definitely don't go for it, and I continue going forward with my plan to win the game. So, using the responses of people, of the Tucker Carlsons of the world, of the Madison Cawthorns of the world, as justification for black people to get worked up about this is nonsensical. I do not let my enemy determine what my moves are going to be. I have an objective. I have an agenda. If my agenda and objective is to make sure the black community is good, to make sure the black community is safe, to make sure the black community is built up, that's my agenda. Kyle Rittenhouse does not mean jack shit to us. Move on. As always, if you appreciate my content, feel free to give me a thumbs up, like, share, and subscribe. And, oh, one more thing. For all the people on the right that are celebrating the Kyle Rittenhouse acquittal and that think he was completely justified in shooting Rosenbaum, who was unarmed, I got a question for you. Was the Ashley Babbitt shooting justified? I'll see you next time.